Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Lunchtime Live. Today, we're going to be talking about music. We're going to be joined by musician VC Pines shortly. And yeah, we've got lots to talk about today, don't we?
Yeah, it's very exciting. So we got to see VT Pines quite recently. He's just been touring his new album, MRI, which is all about his experiences with epilepsy. We saw him quite recently on his Leeds date of his recent tour. It was a fantastic gig, so I'm really excited to get to feature him again.
Yes. So yeah, we're just going to try and get Jack in. Bear with us 1 second. And yeah, hopefully chat to him very soon. What are we going to talk about in the meantime? Come on.
So Jack is his real name, but his stage name VC Pines. That comes from his own experiences of epilepsy. So he recalls one seizure where he could see these massive pine trees, and VC it relates to violet coloured. So
Technical issues.
wait for Jack to come in.
Yeah.
I think he might be
Oh,
here.
here he is.
What's up?
Hello.
Hello.
How we doing?
Good, yeah. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, trying to stay busy post tour, but you kind of, I don't know. I'm really used to having my email inbox like too busy to deal with, and now I'm kind of like just twiddling my thumbs. So, yeah, trying to stay busy, get back in the studio, and get working on some new music.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's great.
Glad we can help you stay busy this afternoon.
Yes.
Yeah,
We'll have a chat for as long as you like, because, I mean, with us too, if we're talking about music, we can go on forever and ever and ever.
It
So,
could go on.
No.
yeah. I guess, you know, the first thing we can start off is your album. Obviously, as you were saying, you just finished your tour. So yeah, can you just chat us through your album, how it relates to your journey with epilepsy? Obviously, there's a lot of people here today that are going to want to know about that, and yeah, what was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, so the album was, I kind of made it over several months, and it was at a time where I just kind of changed up my team, like kind of the music industry side of things. So I was suddenly in a position where I didn't have kind of other people saying you should try and sound like this, or you should go down this road, or so I had this opportunity to just project myself and put everything that I am in a record without thinking about, oh, we've got to make a TikTok song, or we've got to make a that. And it was like, okay, how can I really put myself in this record? And it started with the intro track, Chamber, which is I produced that by myself, and it has this really soft chord sequence that's really warm and inviting, and that kind of, to me, that's how seizures feel when they start. It's this kind of thing that is quite welcoming, and it's not something that I kind of try and shake off. It's like, oh, this is quite nice actually.
Okay, yeah.
And then kind of stitched in the sounds of an MRI machine to represent how epilepsy can completely it kind of cuts in and out of your life or your day, or in a really unexpected way. So it's kind of this quite abrasive, nasty MRI sound that cuts in and out of this really nice chord sequence. It's this big kind of juxtaposition, and I thought that's like that. Yeah, that's how I want to start this album. And then all the songs that follow after that are all kind of different aspects of epilepsy as a condition for me, but then also some of them are, juggling relationships and your career and all of these other things with epilepsy, and you know, embarrassing moments or moments of pride, or it covers a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you kind of hinted at it a little bit there, talking about the chord sequences and so on. How much do you think epilepsy directly influences your music in terms of, I suppose, the chord sequences, but also the melody, the lyrics? Does it influence absolutely everything, or is it just certain moods?
Yeah, well, I think so. I use synesthesia, which I'm dead sure is a symptom of my epilepsy, and that kind of will evoke a color in my head depending on what chords I'm playing. So I'll kind of feel like, okay, yeah, we're gonna go down this purple route, or this chorus needs to be, we definitely want a green chorus here, obviously. So yeah, it definitely helps justify certain decisions, and it helps with choices. But I wouldn't say that I think it's more of an after the idea has started, it helps with guidance, as opposed to like an idea coming out of the blue. But that's where the temporal lobe epilepsy helps, when like one of my senses is triggered, whether I smell something or hear something or feel something, and then it will bring up a strong memory or like nostalgic episode, and then from there song ideas start, and I'll kind of stretch these memories out into stories, or kind of how was I feeling at the time, what else happened, just kind of stretch them out, I suppose.
It's really interesting. Just while we're kind of on the subject of the colours thing, I did a very bad job just before you joined of explaining where the name VC Pines comes from. I was wondering, just also for people who've joined since, so we're speaking to Jack just now, but Jack, your stage name is VC Pines, your artist name. I wonder if you'd like to explain where that comes from.
Yeah, so VC Pines stands for Violet Coloured Pines. The violet coloured bit being from synesthesia and using colours that I see in my head, from sounds and smells and stuff, in my writing. And then pines comes from when I first started having seizures. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what it was. I thought I was going mad at 17, but I would have these nostalgic episodes of these huge pine trees and that kind of setting, and then I realised that I'd been there before, and I used to go to, when I was a kid, I used to go to North America, and I realised that I was actually just seeing all of these things that I'd already experienced, and it kind of, again, that really warm feeling was there. So yeah, I thought, Pines. I started as Pines, and then there was another band in Canada called Pine that said they were going to sue me.
Couldn't use that. We just got somebody asking if they could ask questions after this. I just wanted to say, if you've got any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat, and we're going to obviously try and get Jack to answer them. I was going to mention, actually, you said earlier about, when you first got diagnosed, you said you were 17, right? So did you kind of already know that you wanted to be a musician, and did your diagnosis affect your ambition in that sense at all? Can you just talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'd already been I started doing gigs in pubs from the age of like 15, 16. But I was at college at the time, and I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do really. But I knew I loved music and I loved performing.
Yeah.
but there were several things that I really enjoyed. One was karate, it still is. One, music and fashion and stuff like that. And then so I was interested in all these different things. And then I started having seizures, and I was put on a medication that didn't agree with me, and I had a really shit time basically at college. And then that's when I was like, I can't, I don't want to carry on. Kind of, one, not enjoying college, two, not enjoying being myself. So I say I did. I sat down with my parents and I was like, I don't want to do college anymore. I need to find something that I enjoy doing that's going to make every day like a little bit better. So I went to music college and just threw myself into music. And so I did it a year, a higher diploma at the ICMP in North London. And then the band I was in, we started gigging more and more and writing our own stuff, and it kind of grew from there. But yeah, so it definitely, it kind of pushed me into a corner where I was like, okay, I have to find something that's just something that I can enjoy, basically, because there wasn't an aspect that of my life at that time that was making anything better, really.
Yeah, even in those very early days, did you feel that epilepsy was always going to be part of that journey with music, with your art?
No, it was really separate. It was like this kind of, I saw it as this weird little thing that kind of followed me around. Like I'd do a gig and then have a seizure straight after, or I'd be having, like there was one time where we were on tour in Hong Kong, and I was having like 4 or 5 panic attacks a day, and it was just like, I was like, oh, this thing's followed me to Hong Kong. I don't know what it is or how to get rid of it. And then like get on stage, do the gig, and like it would always kind of keep it at bay. I think the adrenaline of being on stage and stuff would just keep all of these things at bay. And then straight after the gig, I'd be like on another planet again. And yeah, so at that time it was just like this thing that I didn't really know how to deal with. And then when I started, and that was the same throughout the time in my old band. And then when I started VC Pines, that's where I was like, okay, I'm gonna harness this thing and really try and make it give back to me, and use it to make something different.
Yeah. It's a fantastic way of looking at things.
It definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a couple of points that you touched on there that we kind of wanted to ask you about. First one is touring. So you said obviously at the time it was something that you didn't really know how to deal with, or sort of struggled with in terms of touring. How has that changed now, and sort of what kind of precautions do you take now? And obviously you've just finished your tour now. So yeah, can you tell us about that a little bit?
We were all saying on tour how like different adult touring is compared to like teenage touring. It was so like, it was so lame. Like, yeah, we just like, I don't know, for me personally, like sleep is really, really important. So whenever we get to a hotel, like we just push for late check-in, late check-out, and then look after my voice on tour. So like straight after the gig, not really. I think when I was talking to you guys after the gig in Leeds, I was kind of just like this, like talking.
Yeah, not surprising though.
Yeah. And then like exercise as well, which is something that I'd never done on tour. But like getting up and getting blood pumping, go for a run, do some boxing, just helps kind of switch my brain on for the day. And then like, do you know what? Like, one of the hardest parts of touring is like making sure that you eat well, because some of the venues feed you, some don't. But then like some people in the band might have dietary requirements and stuff, and then like you might take like what's called a buyout at a gig instead of the rider, because the rider always, for some reason, pita bread and hummus and beer. That's not going to help. So you take cash instead, and then, but then most of the time it's like the only food you can eat is from a service station. So you have to really kind of find the best places to sustain yourself and just make good choices and not give in to buying KFC at every service station, really.
Yeah. That's not easy though.
No.
Somebody in the comments just asked if you could explain sort of the inspiration behind Superman, so the lyrics and just the meaning of the song.
So Superman is about. I wrote it at a time when I was really, really burnt out, and I was saying yes to everything. Like, oh, come to this thing, or do you want to do this session, or come to my gig, or let's hang out here. Like, I was just like yes. And then the things that I actually was really looking forward to for a long time, or the times that I spent with people that are like the closest to me, I was just burnt out, knackered, miserable, having seizures, and so Superman's about like that feeling of, oh, I wish I could do it again and actually have had more sleep, or not been feeling how I felt, or it's about like taking time for yourself and focusing on the things that actually do matter, and looking after yourself.
Yeah, it's very, very, very important. I've seen a lot of love for Superman in the comments there as well, so that's good. Yeah, I mean, is there any song? Obviously, the whole album is incredibly personal to you, but is there any song or any songs that really stand out as having a really deep meaning? Anyone that you really, really love performing live?
Yeah, do you know what? No One's Gonna Save You is a track on the album that a lot of people live have there's been a really good reaction from the crowd, and I think it's the lyrics in particular that are like quite poignant, and they mean a lot to me, and I also can see how they could mean a lot to the listener as well. They're quite upfront and honest, and it's that song's about meeting someone who is in a really dark place, but it's a song about like relating to that person because you've been there before, and it's about help, but then also at the same time like you're trying to help someone help themselves, because no one else is gonna save you, basically.
Yeah. I'm sure that's a message a lot of people watching this can resonate with.
For sure. I was going to latch onto that to ask, what are your biggest sort of inspirations musically, artists that you look up to that have sort of influenced you in your sound? I think that that is something that a lot of people would be interested in hearing. We are definitely for sure.
So inspirations and stuff?
Yeah, so I think there'll be a few people watching who probably haven't listened or heard it before, so it'd be really good to kind of know what kind of stuff they can expect when they head over to Spotify after this and tune in to MRI.
So I think making the album, I was listening a lot to like Steve Lacy, Dijon, King Cruel, Glass Animals, Young Fathers. There's they're kind of like contemporary inspirations, but I grew up on like a mix of soul and Motown, and then like punk as well.
Nice.
I kind of I'd be in the car with my dad and listen to like Bobby Womack and then the Stranglers and kind of not know what I was singing, but just scream the lyrics to Peaches out the window. Yeah.
That's cool. Hopefully that's given some people a bit of inspiration to go and listen. Just even another question that has come through is when you tour, do you actually tell people about your epilepsy so that they're aware of it, or do you just kind of keep it quiet, not want to make a big deal out of it?
It's definitely something to make people like lighting engineers aware.
Yeah,
Like I was, I had so much to do when I did the headline at Lafayette that it completely slipped my mind, and I walked on stage and the lighting engineer, all fairness to him, he had no idea. So he had strobe on stage whilst we were playing chamber, and I was like, and I think my agent ran straight over to the desk and was like, turn the fucking strobe off. But it's I'm not photosensitive, but it is something that kind of it slow. I don't know. After a while, it makes me kind of slow and lethargic. And then also having found this community through epilepsy since putting the album out, I think having strobe light in general at my shows is not. It's something to make lighting engineers aware of, to not have.
Yeah,
for sure. We've got another question in the comments. Somebody is asking if you could share sort of the best and I guess the worst parts of the tour. So just give us a bit of a snapshot.
Moment, I think from this tour, the Lafayette show, I hadn't gone out and looked at how many people were there or like who was in the crowd or anything like that. So I had no idea what I was walking into basically, but stepped on stage and I didn't look at the crowd. I just kind of I was looking down at my feet, playing the instrumental track Chamber, but I could feel this like mass of people or like this massive something like through the kind of dark just there. And then we went straight into running and I sang the first line, and that's when I looked at the crowd for the first time. The lights went up and I just saw this like wall of people, and I could have burst into tears right then. It was like, it felt like such a moment. And I kind of felt like, I've done this. And then, I wasn't nervous at all after that, and just really, really enjoyed the show. And then, so I think the worst moment of the tour, probably, we did the whole tour in Andrew, who plays bass, in his car with all of our equipment.
Wow.
So, like playing rock, paper, scissors to see who's going to be sat in the front, basically, and not winning. So you're like two of you are in the back with a drum kit and a synth.
No.
You've got a 2-hour drive to the next hotel, and you're just like, this sucks.
All worth it at the end of the night, I bet.
Oh yeah, it's definitely worth it. But that was a moment where I was like, I wish I had a band.
Yeah. That sounds great though. Now you've finished with that tour. You hinted at it a little bit when you first came on here, but what's next? Is it you can have a little bit of a rest? You're straight back into writing? You got any more dates coming up?
Straight back into writing, really. I've got I was in the studio the other night, back in tomorrow, and then we're looking at new shows for early next year. I don't want to stop really. I want to keep the ball rolling, and I'm finally back in a position where I'm touring and playing shows and festivals and releasing music and stuff, and that's that's why I do this. So yeah, I don't want to stop.
Totally. Yeah.
Awesome. I think another sort of question that we were thinking we'd like to ask you is if there's anybody that's listening to us today that maybe has epilepsy and also wants to, take on a music career, what kind of advice would you give them? What would you tell your younger self? That sounds very cliche, but you know what I mean. Would you have any?
Yeah. I think just not putting too much pressure on yourself is definitely like something to always remember, and realize that you are an anomaly in the music industry, and there are going to be days where you're like, I'm really not up to writing, or I'm not up to this gig, or I'm not feeling today at all, and that's fine. That is fine. Nothing like your career is not going to end just because you didn't write that song today, or like looking after yourself is definitely number one. And then also, I don't know, I think it would be a case by case thing in terms of how does your epilepsy affect you. But I guess if you can find any kind of not necessarily a positive, but like something that makes your daily experience different, or like things that change because of your condition. What are those things, and do they inspire you at all, or what do you have to say about them? And find your thing that like turns it into a tool or inspiration for a song, or yeah.
Brilliant, fantastic advice. It's kind of a similar question, but it's one that we do tend to ask every single guest on these lunchtime lines, and that is, what has epilepsy taught you? Quite broad.
Oh my god. I think it's taught me that it's definitely taught me how to be more open and like honest about myself. It used to be something that I felt uncomfortable talking about. I felt like it was a thing that people would see as like, oh, we don't really want to work with this artist because he might have a seizure whilst he's in the studio, or he might have a seizure on tour, or I don't know. I feel like there's a stigma around epilepsy, and I think having said all these things openly and putting this album out that is really kind of open about it, has made my experience of the condition a lot better, and that actually there are so many people out there that want to help, or want to spread awareness, or have it themselves, and need to listen to your experience of it. Or I think it's just taught me to not hide things really, and just share my experience.
Yeah, that's a really, really good note to end on, I think.
Yeah.
We're pretty much at half past now. So yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jack. It's been really, really, really good talking to you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we've seen lots of positive things in the comments as well. Lots of love for the album and the songs. So yeah, I'm sure if anyone wants to keep up with you on Instagram, social media, at VC Pines on everything, I think.
Everything, everywhere, all the time.
I'll find you there. So yeah, next thing to do.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
All right. Cheers, Jack. See you later.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Jack.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.